All right, good evening. I will call to order the Thursday, October 4th, 2018 Parks and Recreation Commission meeting. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It's a packed room tonight. Yeah. All right. Roll call.
Commissioner Taylor.
Present.
Commissioner Jacobson.
Here.
Commissioner Ittner.
Here.
Chair Firestone.
Here.
Commissioner Comerford.
Here.
Okay, absent this evening, of course, is our youth commissioner, because we're still in the recruitment process for that commissioner. And Patrick Murphy, as you all may or may not know, has resigned from his position or from the commission. So we could talk privately about that if you have any questions.
Yeah, and I'll say publicly, thank you to Commissioner Murphy. He's not here this evening, but I wanted to thank him for his service to our commission over the past few years and to Ojai Recreation for seemingly his whole lifetime, or a lot of it. So thank you, Commissioner Murphy.
Yeah, thank you. Well, we'll miss you.
Okay, item number 3, public comments. No?
From what I understand, someone, a representative from the music festival may be joining us later on.
Okay.
To the grapevine.
Okay.
That they might be talking during that.
Great. So we might
regarding our joint meeting.
Got it. Okay.
In Libby Lawn.
Okay. Sounds good. We don't have any presentations scheduled for this evening. Item number 5, the police department report. Doesn't look like Sergeant Matthews is here, but if anybody has any questions or comments, we can relay those to him. Any questions, comments?
We know for sure he's not coming.
I'm sorry,
Sergeant Matthews.
I did, not right before this meeting, but earlier today, contacted PD and just reminded them that we had a meeting and that we typically have a representative from the PD here. So apparently, maybe a deputy wasn't available tonight.
Okay. So any questions or comments for the police department? Okay. Public Works?
No reports from Greg of park-related updates.
Okay. Approval of minutes from the August 2nd regular meeting. Did everyone get a chance to take a look at the minutes that were emailed? If not, we can take a look at them now. I think with the new format, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it's really nice
to review. Yeah, but I'll give you a minute for that.
I'll make a motion to approve the August 2nd, 2018 Parks and Recreation Commission minutes.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. All right. Discussion items. All right. So we had a joint meeting last month. Thanks everyone for being there and participating. Sounds like it went pretty well. And a lot of items came up that were things that the commission could follow up on. And so I made a list of those items, and I thought we could just discuss a game plan for which of these items we want to take up and how we want to prioritize them. So I'll just read through the list and then we can kind of talk about them. So there was a question about the after-school program, reaching out to Sunset about providing that service there. There was a comment about the Sarzati Park picnic area and requesting more frequent cleaning or checking on the cleanliness of the picnic areas. request to look into moving gymnastics off-site from Sarzati Park. A question about how to make the Boyd Center more useful if there's not a new recreation building in the master plan, which there's not. Considering a water element in Libby Park, a dog park more centrally located in town, considering approaching Nordhoff High School about a partnership to improve their basketball courts and have them usable by the public. Pickleball, which we're going to be talking more about, item 8B specifically, so we can hold off on that one. And then the old dumpster area at Sarzati Park, which is in the master plan to be removed. So that's what I had. Is there anything else that I missed? I didn't think of anything.
Did you mention after school at Sunset? I think, oh yeah, sorry, you did right on the onset. Something about Mayor Johnston talked about the valley-wide district and maybe working with the Y too, somehow, working with that organization. I think you did a great job getting all of those. I had similar notes and kind of gone through, but
Okay.
yeah, about the picnic area you've already mentioned. Councilmember Haney bringing that up and wanting some sort of checklist, but talking about how we can keep those looking nice and having a regular maintenance schedule on those.
Mm-hmm.
So if I have go ahead, sir.
Go for it.
It's a question relating to the sunset question. We are mailing our brochures to the same boundaries as the school district. Is that correct?
The school, well, valley-wide, so school.
Okay, what does valley-wide mean to us when we mail?
Well, 93023 and 93022, so
Okay.
Oakview.
So it is
gets
all
our-
of Oakview?
All of Oakview,
Okay.
yep.
All right.
So, yeah,
So
those zip codes, yes.
should we just go through this list and
Yeah.
just have kind of
Yeah.
brief discussion, see how interested we are in following up? Okay, so after-school program, Sunset.
My immediate thoughts is, having just done something over at the Oakview Community Center, is maybe not that I don't know, I would want to investigate more what they're already doing at the Oakview Community Center and what Sunset's already doing. I mean, maybe just a phone call or two would be the start to even seeing whether it's worth having a discussion, because there's a lot of vibrant programming going on at the Oakview Community Center right now.
Affordable. I think the Boys and Girls Club, I think, is involved, right, aren't they?
A whole lot of different contractors are there. It's not just one thing, and they have support. It's all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
nice.
I would,
Yeah, and it's right there.
I'm not sure that I want to step on anyone's toes there.
That, and it's so far away for you as a supervision from just the standpoint of, that's a long distance. Topa's quite close.
Yeah.
Miramont, places that we've looked at are all much closer.
Sure.
Yeah.
We have a nice rapport with the principal at
Right.
Sunset.
Excellent
You know,
principal.
yeah,
Yes.
she's wonderful and she'd probably be receptive, I suppose, if we.
Well, so it's worth
you-
maybe.
I don't.
so-
It's worth a phone call
maybe-
to say,
yeah.
hey,
Yeah.
do you need that?
Yeah.
From is that something you want or need for your students at
So really enough
for
said
your,
at
for
that
your
point.
parents
Yeah.
actually?
So just maybe you would initiate the call?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's
So,
great.
Yeah.
Do we need more follow-up than that at this point?
I don't think so.
Okay, well, that's easy. Sarzati picnic area. I think this one's pretty straightforward, too.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with Councilmember Haney that it would be helpful to have a checklist of, maybe something a little more formalized than what we already do. As I mentioned in the joint meeting, Public Works is there, I wouldn't say on a daily, but they're scheduled every Thursday to come and mow the lawn at the park and do a complete facility cleaning, if you will. And that would include the picnic areas. And of course, we're trying to be sensitive to the drought. And I suppose we could say, make some sort of policy decision to say once a month, we're going to pressure wash those picnic areas. We haven't done that, but I suppose we could.
So what is kind of the typical weekly attention to the picnic areas?
It's on as needed, I have to say. So if we go out there and we see there's a lot of debris in the picnic areas, we'll either put in a work order to Public Works, or we'll have our in-house staff just use a leaf blower. And we did get those battery-powered leaf blowers and equipment
Right.
at our access to, at our park. So
Yeah.
we have someone in-house do it if it's needed. And so we regularly are in that picnic area.
Yeah, and of the users, like the rental, the people renting those picnic areas, have there been any complaints about cleanliness of the picnic areas?
I think we might have had one or two, but then that was actually us prior. Those complaints actually came prior to, and a lot of it was just overflow trash. But we since have resolved or fixed that issue by getting a weekend staff person, a staff person to come out on the weekends and empty the trash from the Saturday user, so it'd be ready for the Sunday user. So they come out and do trash emptying on Sunday morning, and then Monday morning it's done by Harrison.
Got it.
So it's not as big, it's not as much of a
Yeah.
problem.
While they're out there, could they at least observe the overall cleanliness of the picnic area? So we have a sense of, because I got the impression that maybe this is something that happens, like Thursday there's this cleaning, and then there's heavy use on the weekend, and sometime during the weekend, the picnic areas get dirtier and
Right, and I think that transition from Saturday, the Saturday party user, to then the Sunday party user, I guess the Sunday user is at a bit of a disadvantage because they're at the mercy of the Saturday user. So
Right.
that person who comes in, to your point, and empties the trash on Sunday morning,
Mhm.
if it is bad, they don't have our contact information to say, hey, we need a
Right.
quick pressure wash or a.
And is that someone from Public Works, or who does that?
It's not. It's from our the PJ's cleaning service that does citywide cleaning. It's one of their employees
Got it. But
that we
and-
contracted with. We added that day.
Got it. Could you ask them to just kind of note the cleanliness level?
Yeah.
of the concert?
Well, we do have a cleaning deposit that we
good.
we have, and so when the trash is not, when it isn't cleaned properly, I shouldn't say they don't have my contact information, but it usually goes from the employee to Jody, who's the owner of the company, and then she'll send me a video, like they'll
Okay.
videotape
Okay.
it or take pictures, and then she forwards that to me, but it's usually not till Monday
Got it.
or
And- right.
Tuesday after the,
And
bit after the
if-
fact.
So if the area is dirty and somebody loses their deposit, there's no cleaning that's happening.
Well, no, the person who's, emptying the trash cans, he won't leave it. He picks it up.
Oh, he does.
But
Okay.
I'm talking about like if there's, spilled soda everywhere and cake all over the ground, he's probably not going to get that. But bigger trash and obvious stuff, he'll take care of.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Mhm.
Would it make any sense for when people that do come to the Ojai Park and Rec, and they request that they can have use of the park on a weekend, would it make any sense to have them sign a contract that they are responsible for the trash and all that other stuff that goes on?
Yes, so their permit, they do fill out a permit, and they sign that permit. On that permit, and I can forward that to you guys so you have a copy of it. It says, any overflow trash needs to be put in the dumpster. we give them, the dumpsters are locked, and we give them a combination to the dumpster, so any trash that is, again, overflow, so they don't leave it out there for potential animals to get to or anything like that. So there's a method where they shouldn't, where that shouldn't happen. And again,
Right.
we've had to, people have lost their cleaning deposit because
Yeah.
they haven't honored their permit
Well, it's only
agreement.
fair.
So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And the same with amplified sound. We
Yeah.
have, they can also lose their deposit if the PD is called out, and we've had people lose their deposit. We say in that permit agreement, if the PD gets called out because your music is too loud, and it's found that your music is determined that your music was too loud, then you'll lose your deposit as well. So there is that contract that they have to
Yeah.
fill out and sign with all the rules on it. No amplified sound after 8 p.m. You can only have amplified sound for a maximum of 4 hours. So we've tried to tighten some of those rules at the park, and it's working.
Good.
But sometimes it doesn't work because human nature is such.
Right.
So
Well,
I
I'm
just
glad
had a
you're
question
covered.
about the trash on Monday. You said Harrison comes and picks it up, but they just emptied the 3-yard dumpsters? Do they go and
They-
empty the small ones also?
They do. They're contracted with the entire city actually to go around and empty all the individual trash cans in the city. And I think those are done by Harrison Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Great.
Other questions, comments?
Pretty dry subject.
It does sound like maybe there's some gap in that if people are using it on Saturday and people are using it on Sunday, there's
Yeah.
not necessarily a cleanup beyond the trash that happens.
Right.
in
And we
between.
have talked about, should we have of course it's going to add cost, but should we have a park monitor there during specific times where it's important, at the end of the party, at the beginning of one, or putting someone there for a 10-hour party is just not cost effective or necessary or warranted. But can we get a weekend person to come on a
Well, also,
Saturday and
another
Sunday?
option is if you have a contractor coming Sunday morning to empty trash, maybe there's additional cleaning they could do
Yes.
if needed.
if needed? True, yep. And maybe we do schedule a once-a-month pressure wash.
Yeah.
Like not just the ground, but the picnic tables, and because there is, they get dirty.
Yeah.
And, so.
And did I understand at the meeting that these are new, fairly new, the
Yeah.
picnic tables?
Oh, we have some very new tables,
Yeah.
yeah,
The whole
pretty,
the structure's
the whole
all new.
structure, they're 2
Okay,
years,
so that's even
2
more
years
important,
old.
yeah,
Yeah.
to protect
To
them,
maintain
so to
them.
maintain them, yeah.
But I think overall, I would have to say they're well kept, and we rarely get complaints about the cleanliness of them.
Okay.
I'm wondering too if it's partially, and this is where I think it's, in your court, is a procedural thing of maybe someone on staff is responsible for every Monday going out there.
Yeah.
And before you make any changes,
Yeah.
maybe just a month or two of watching
Yeah.
and collecting information before you move to even making big changes to see where things are at. Because I would think after observing for 2 months,
Yeah.
I mean, of course, now we're not in summer, which is not your busiest season, but you're still booking stuff to
Mhm.
see and just maybe collect some information and observe for a while with a more focused look before you make
Yes.
any changes. That would just
Sure.
be my
Yeah.
2 cents from, because it isn't totally clear exactly what the concern, I mean, the concern was that at times when he was there and when he saw it, it was not clean. That was what I took away from the discussions. When and where and why it's happening, I don't think
At
was
what time was
as
he
clear.
there? And yeah, all
Well,
of that.
so I
How
just
many
think from a
times?
staff perspective, it would be good to just, set someone up to do a very regular look, and then you'll have more information, it'll be easier to go at. Because I mean, before you make the checklist and before you do all these things and before you have the check-in points,
Yeah, we do
Just
that with
take a
the,
close
just to let you know, we do that with the skate park.
Mhm.
Once every 2 weeks,
Oh.
a staff will go out to the skate park and do a
Just-
check.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
make sure there's no vandalism,
And since you're on
any
site there.
damage on the property.
Yeah, but since you're on site with that,
Yeah.
it's not a big, I mean, it's just
Yeah, we
more of
sort
a,
of take
it's
it
more
for
of setting
granted
up
a
a
little bit.
routine.
You know, because we go out in the park,
Right.
not as a checklist thing, but
Yeah.
check them out. We at least go out there once a week to post the signs to the reservation signs for the users. And
So
then we-
would it be reasonable to ask someone to check every Monday and we get a report back next month?
Sure. I mean, once a week, absolutely.
there
And
and
I would, I mean, if we had permission and if consider, you know, with keeping drought concerns in mind, frankly, it would be nice to pressure wash them once a month.
Okay, well, yeah.
My opinion.
Yeah,
It sounds reasonable
If
to
it's-
observe for a while and
Yeah.
let's get a better sense of what the issue is.
yeah.
That sounds good. Anything else on that? Okay, moving gymnastics off-site. So, Councilmember Haney had asked about, because there's this overlap in use in the gym between gymnastics and basketball and having to take down all the gymnastics equipment 3 times a week when the two events are overlapping. What about using other sites? So, I mean, as you had mentioned, Sage, it's only going to add cost to the program because right now that's not part of the cost of the program.
Right.
So I don't know if that's something we want to look into.
I mean, I suppose we could price something out on Bryant Street, a large.
The only way I can see us offsetting that cost is if we used it for a number of other things too.
And
Right.
it defeats
That's a
the
good point.
purpose, I think, of not having to move the equipment, right? I mean,
Well,
that's
for
his
basketball,
objection.
maybe, yeah.
Unless you
That
were
was
coming
his-
up with things that were complementary, like, I'm just gonna give it for instance, but we went to the Mountain Film Festival, and I don't know if anyone else was there, but they had the one where they had a climbing gym and a gymnastics center together. And I found that really, really interesting, because they were using the soft fall stuff from the gymnastics with climbing walls all above it, and the gym served 2 purposes. And I'm not saying that we could do that, but so if you could find complementary things that you could do, maybe. But again, yeah, my concern is just that part of what makes that wonderful and unique is that it's incredibly affordable, and everyone, it's really accessible. And so my greater concern is, you can go to gyms in Ventura that are full, single, standalone gyms, and you can do that. But this is something different. So I just wouldn't want it to lose what makes it special. But I would think if, for me, it isn't just about the cost of the building, I would start with staff, just have a quick sit down and, would you even be interested in this? Would this improve your experience? Beyond the fact that they're of course going to say, yes, we don't want to take our mats down and do this over and over.
Yeah.
But from a perspective of, because at some point, you're going to have to think about how many more people or how many more program, what it is, and just, have a brief, conversation about that.
Right. There's no harm in that.
Right.
Getting
And the information about
Vicky,
real
who
estate.
coordinates that program and has been doing it for over 25 years. My sense is if she felt that strongly about the benefit of moving it as opposed to having to move equipment off the floor, she'd be in my office every day saying, hey, we need to find a better solution to this
And
issue.
if they were willing to raise the cost, which I don't think is part of what they want to do.
No, right,
Yeah.
we make it accessible and affordable.
So, maybe a little discussion
Is-
is not a bad, I don't think
No.
that, I think having those discussions is a worthwhile thing. Because you may come up with other things that we don't understand about that program
Right.
that would be useful to know too, so,
And what else could we program in the gym?
right, that's another,
that-
yeah.
To
Yeah.
give more benefit to that space or to,
Yeah, would you have more basketball leagues?
we have more
Would you
you're
Yeah,
right.
like adult leagues or, other
Yeah.
drop-in sports or, yeah.
right, indoor soccer, whatever
Right.
it is, that we
We're so,
might
we're so
add.
set at this point with our schedule, we don't even look
An
beyond
indoor
what we do.
pickleball court or something.
I had a question too. So the current schedule, when basketball is in season and using the gym, what is the schedule? What is the days that are basketball and the days that are gymnastics? Is it
So
Monday, Wednesday, Friday for
Monday,
gym?
Wednesday, Friday gymnastics, basketball Tuesday, Thursday
Okay.
during basketball season. So basketball season really, if you're marking the amount of time, it's 3.5 months. So the middle of December to the end of March,
So that goes back to your question of what else could we do in there? Because like indoor soccer, people have asked about that.
or
but
the beginning of March.
We
sorry,
haven't
I
had
guess.
capacity.
So 2.5
to
months.
do those things.
Yeah. So another thought I had was if this moving the equipment really is a big issue, I mean, maybe scheduling differently so it's not, one day gym, one day basketball, one day gym,
Mm.
one day
But that's
basketball.
how they want it,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they need the spread of days.
Oh, you-
They don't want it every day in a row. That's what I
so
understand.
you might, so you're,
You 3 days
if I
on,
hear
so
what.
it's
if
It's
I
worth
hear you right-
asking.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
If I hear you right,
Yeah.
gymnastics, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, basketball, Thursday, Friday.
Or even like if there was kind of 2 instead of 3 times a week when things had to be shuffled. It's worth asking, I think.
Yeah,
For example, gymnastics, would they rather have the Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule, or would they rather have kind of one less time transition per week?
Mm.
In addition, I don't think I mean, we gotta ask these people whether or not it would be in their best interest to relocate somewhere else, whereas everything right now is centrally located. And in addition to
Yes.
having just the gym there, I mean, there's the surrounding facilities as well.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
So, I mean, are we just either gonna drop their kids off and abandon them down in the industrial area of Ojai?
Right, yeah, there is.
Because there's
as
a lot
we-
of siblings that come
Yeah.
in. They don't necessarily participate in gymnastics or basketball.
Right, we have a decent amount of situations where one is in gymnastics, someone might be in kung fu because those 2 classes are going on at the
Right,
same
mhm.
time, or a music class.
Using the playground.
Right, using the playground, and that's what we talked about, multi-sport courts too. Well, there's a court over at Matilaha, but if you have someone in gymnastics, you could be right over at the basketball court on site
So
with your
is-
other child.
Is this something you could follow up with Vicky and
Oh, absolutely, and we
understand
have talked
what their
about
take
it,
is? Yeah.
it's not as if that conversation hasn't come up in the at least 15 years that
Yeah.
I've been there, and again, over 25 for her, that we haven't said, gosh, wouldn't it be nice that you don't have to take down your equipment?
Sure.
But in all honesty, we had called Bryant Street open, big garage area, and say, hey, what's your monthly rental? And crunched out the numbers, what it would look like if we had to rent it, and how that would change the fee.
Yeah. Well, if you have a conversation with her, I'd be happy to participate
Yeah.
too.
That's a
Yeah.
great idea.
Sure.
Okay, so it sounds like that's a good first step there.
Mhm.
We don't really need to do much more, I think, as a commission. Any other thoughts on that?
I would just say that when I moved here, one of the programs that was really so strongly spoken up was the gymnastics here, that it was just absolutely superb. And this gal, she's been there how many years, please?
Probably 27, 28.
Wow.
She and her
Yeah.
daughter. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and Stacy, her daughter.
Yeah,
Both
yeah,
have been almost equal amount of time.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, she obviously has done a superb job all these
Yeah,
years, because
yes.
it's extremely well accepted here.
Mhm.
More
It
than I
is.
think. I mean, I've heard more about the gymnastics
Mhm.
than I have about the other programs.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, we have
It's-
a lot of participants.
yeah.
So-
Tennis is up there,
Tennis.
not in numbers,
Yeah,
but
but-
in, well, a little
Just a
bit in
little
numbers
different.
too, but just, yeah, it's just, anyway. But yeah, gymnastics is definitely
So I
the-
guess my point is, in order to, has she
I
requested?
mean, she'd
and-
love to go 5 days a week, I'm
Yeah.
sure. Yeah,
okay.
there's no doubt
Okay,
about that. I mean,
okay,
she's
okay.
expressed it's not just a matter of, I don't like taking down equipment and putting back equipment up, but that's a big factor. But gosh, it would be so fantastic to go 5 days a week, because when we go to these
Yeah,
gymnastics
yeah.
competitions, they still do very well with the amount of time
Yeah.
they actually get in the gym. But of course, her competitive side is,
Yeah.
gosh, I'd like another 4 hours, 6 hours a week.
Well, and sometimes it would, and this is a while ago, my daughter's not doing gymnastics, but when she used to do gymnastics, when they would have times where they didn't have to break down, they would sometimes throw in privates
Yeah.
or small group, and those,
We still do.
you're doing, yeah,
we
but if
still
you had
do.
5 days, it would allow them to do some more of that specific stuff that they can't fit in now, which I know we did. We participated when it was available.
Yeah. So when basketball isn't happening, they are throwing in extra practice sessions on the Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Which is most of the year, right?
It is. It's a decent part of the year. But
9
right
months a
now,
year.
like on Tuesdays now, we're running preseason basketball
Right.
clinic.
Okay.
So we added that into the mix.
Mhm.
So now on
Is that just practices
It-
or their game?
no games, yeah,
Okay. So
practices,
is that something
clinics.
a multi-sport court would alleviate possibly during like this time of year? Is that
Possible. We
something-
could potentially run our clinics outdoor.
Weather's okay.
We'd need lights out there this time of year, eventually, soon. November 4th will be.
Okay, so we
Following
can
back.
follow up with Vicky and report back.
Yeah.
Making the Boyd Center more useful.
I don't remember this comment.
I don't either.
So
Well,
Randy had said that since we're not replacing the Boyd Center with a new
Right.
rec center, how could we modify the Boyd Center to kind of satisfy some of these needs that?
And interestingly, the plan actually shows some modification.
it
It shows bumping out,
Yeah,
yeah, but yes.
did have some modifications to it.
I didn't.
right, some additions.
Yeah.
Oh, it's expansion, yeah. I mean,
And I don't know if it seems interesting. I don't know if we're sort of in a subconscious way not adding programs because we know we have a limited amount of space, therefore we don't push as hard to go out and find more programming because truly we have, at least with the multi-purpose room,
Yeah.
one of our bigger rooms, we have maxed out
absolutely.
the usage for that space.
Right.
And if we had a bigger space on site, would we work harder to
Well-
get some other programming?
Or would some of
if
your
we knew we had
programs
available space?
go more than one night? Or
Yeah,
would some of your programs
right.
go 3 or 4 nights, which you could fill, but you can't do because you don't have the space? So
Yes.
it's not even just new programs.
No.
it's-
It's I
capacity
agree
issues,
with you.
yeah.
It's existing. Would we do just what you said? Have kung fu 5 days a week instead
Right.
of just
which-
2?
Yeah,
Right, but so as far as modifying the Boyd Center, we can't make more space, right? So we're talking about if we had more space, maybe we could do more programming.
no, we could.
But the question is, it's
I-
really with the space that we have, is there anything that we can't do that like an upgrade to the space would allow us to do? I think.
You mean
is the
without
question.
adding more space?
Right.
No. I think
Yeah.
only adding
Uh,
square footage would,
Yeah, I don't think we need square foot, you need square footage. But as Commissioner Inner pointed out, that it's in that master plan to
Okay.
add space.
it is. We didn't talk about it that night, but
So, I mean, that's an easy response, though, that's it. It's not that the facilities we have kind of don't have the right functions, it's just a matter of space.
Yes.
Okay. That's easy. Anything else on that? A water element in Libby Park. I mean, we covered this during the playground
yes.
design, and my recollection was it was
Dollars
to-
and cents.
yeah, everything that was needed to get that in.
And that really at that park, I think the conclusion at that time is that there's enough going on and it would take up too much space and add another level of intensity to the use there. And I think the discussion was, like with the zip line, they both were more appropriate at Sarzodi than they were in Libby. And so it was cost, but it was also to do a water element really well, would need more space than we could probably reasonably get in Libby right now. And so that it all made sense to move all of that over to Sarzodi where there is space and it won't, because Libby is this balancing act of all of its various different uses within that one park and trying to keep it feeling so that nothing is overwhelming what's going on there. So I think it wasn't just that it was the expensive, but it was both those things. And so everyone was everyone was in agreement that we would really like to have a water element somewhere, but that it would be better sited at Sarzodi instead of Libby.
Right.
And Libby does have the sprayers,
Yeah.
the misters, which is not a water element, but a way to cool off.
And a thought I had was that maybe we could expand that a bit, because as it is now, I mean, it's hard to get wet underneath the mister. It doesn't really cool you off.
Well, and then there's the balancing of no one really wanting to run water, which is the whole misting for, yes, there's
There's the drought fight
yeah.
again
Yeah.
that you'll typically get when you mention a water playground or a splash pad.
Well, I mean, if you're gonna do a real splash pad where you're recycling the doing all of that kind of stuff, I mean, I think at least you could say you're reusing it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
So the misters initially were on a timer. You'd push
Right.
a thing and they'd stay on for a few seconds. And it seemed like that was no significant use of water.
No, it wasn't, yeah.
Now there's, I think just because those things weren't very reliable, there's just kind of a knob to turn it on and turn it off. And so it can stay on for a long time.
Yeah.
And that actually can use a fair amount of water.
If it's just on, yeah. I think those were breaking. Didn't they replace them? This may be faulty recollection, but I think they had the timers and then those kept breaking and so then they.
Yeah, I
went
don't
to
know how
the-
many broke, but
I don't
I
either,
know
yeah.
that it did
They
break.
had
yeah.
issues.
But it might be worth, I think that's probably where the thought on this should go is
How to improve.
improve what
okay.
we have.
Yeah.
But a water element, like we already
But we
kinda
still want a
thought
water
through.
element, just maybe not at Libby.
Yes,
Yeah.
but the water element at Libby Park,
Could be
I think is
improved,
kind of
yeah.
improving the mister. I don't know if others have thoughts on that.
Well, on the pending city council discussion items, I'm aware that they are going to eventually put it on Libby Park master plan.
Who's gonna put what on a Libby?
The city council has as one of their pending discussion items a creating a Libby Park master plan.
There is one.
I know there is
Just to
one.
be.
Updating it.
You're saying that,
updating
because
it,
they're
or-
looking at, you're talking because they're looking at the general plan for everything.
Yes.
And they're looking
Yeah.
to redo the parks element, and as part of
Yeah.
that would like to do a Libby Bowl master plan?
Libby Park.
Libby Park master plan, sorry?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So, interesting.
Well, I don't know about that.
No, I think-
I'm just
I think
saying
that was
that
a
might
little-
come up in the discussion.
In general, okay.
Yeah. So maybe that's not, what I'm saying is maybe that's not something this
Well,
body
I'm
needs to
really
tackle, or
hoping, as having watched some of the council meetings, that the parks element is one of the most out-of-date elements. How old is it now? When I got on, it was like 23 years out, and I know
yeah.
it's so out of date, it's just, so I'm very excited that they're looking at that, and I'm hoping at some point soon, when they're getting closer, they'll bring us in.
Well, I'm sure we'll be involved.
So as a commission, do we want to look into improving the mister?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Mr. Grant in?
I'll let Mr. Grant know we want to
Yeah.
look at the mister.
Okay, great. Well, maybe I'll check in with him and see if maybe he can come to our next meeting and we could talk about it.
Sure, it's actually always nice when the chair invites, seems to have
Noted.
more effect.
Well, we just become more knowledgeable, for sure,
Yeah.
with him explaining.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I mean,
Yeah.
he really helped me understand some
Yeah.
things.
Yep.
All right. Dog park. Anyone?
I think this is a really hard one for me because we have incredibly limited amounts of open space in the city that are city parks. And so it's a really big ask to give up any of our limited space to a single use. Because one of the things we do really well at Sarzodi is balance all of these different uses and they come and they go and they work. And Sewell Park does have a dog park.
Yeah.
The valley is not without a dog park. I think people are maybe looking for different things than are there, I'm not sure, because I don't use them. It's interesting, and I live over near Topa Topa, and for years, people were using the back of Topa Topa as a community park, basically. And then, pretty much overnight, they started locking it. And so that's no longer accessible to people. And I think that would be a really interesting discussion, you know, working with, you know, both the city and the school district working together, to see about opening that up again. And seeing if there's maybe possibilities there, because it was already being used as a dog park, and there was parking around it at that time of the day, and people were driving in. I'm not saying we make it a dog park per se, but to just at least have discussions of the possibility of opening it up from certain hours for that kind of purpose. I know there were concerns then because there was, you know, people weren't always cleaning up after themselves, but one of the big problems there is that even when they locked that down, there's a whole row of houses that have their own gates, and those gates were open, and there were dogs. So, because we were going to school there at the time this was happening, so I don't know that this problem they were trying to solve was solved with locking the community out. And so that would be my, you know, it'd be an interesting thing to look into.
I don't necessarily know that it's just Topa either, because I noticed Miners Oaks and San Antonio, they are,
All
even
informal dog
Miramani,
parks?
yeah,
Yeah.
they're completely locked down, so that might be
Oh,
something
okay.
that OUSD's just moved to for security. I'm not sure if there's an incident or not, but I noticed that all four of the campuses have,
Well, San
So-
Antonio is accessible, isn't it?
no,
Not anymore?
no.
Mm. Well, I will say
know that for a
this.
fact, because I tried to get in over the summer to go look
Oh.
at the thing and completely locked
Well,
down.
that whole thing is an interesting discussion. I know that at Topa, it was a funny, when it happened there, we were at school, and it was because they were the dog, they were, you know, they were concerned about the dogs. But it's really, it was for kids, it was really sad, because they went from, I mean, that neighborhood is really
Yeah, a lot of,
a very walkable
Neighborhood school.
distance, neighborhood school, that they were playing there regularly to, well, let's just say climbing the fence. But, because that is partially what was happening, but, so maybe it is a nice, larger discussion to see if there's ways to broach that.
I can reach out to Andy Cantwell, ask, unless you'd like to.
Yeah, you feel free. He is a very open
Yeah,
superintendent as far as opening facilities up to community and sharing those facilities with community. It'd be a little tricky with vulnerability issues with, it'd have to be supervised, I would think,
what would?
to the school sites. If you open up, for example, after school's out, and you've got Topa opened up, when you open up that field, you're really opening up the rest of the campus, the classrooms.
Actually, it's locked down beyond
Is
there.
it?
Yeah,
Do they have a
absolutely.
gate
There's
in
a gate
between
right
the
there in front,
classrooms?
And then there's a gate into those classrooms. The back, there's some back buildings that would be,
Yeah.
but the majority of the Quaden
after-school-
campus
Like
is.
after-school area is like part of that field, right? I mean,
Yeah,
that's the
she
only
said-
area that-
I think there need to be more fencing to completely
To
close
completely,
off.
but
Well,
for
it would be
years-
something to look
But
at.
But they
I-
have a front gate up there, and then you come through the middle of campus, and then there's another gate, and then there's classrooms back there that are modules. So there are some that are not fenced off,
Yeah.
but the majority of the heart of campus is.
And I think probably their biggest concern would be with dogs and liability. I'm guessing that might have been maybe back in the day a catalyst for,
Well, yeah.
Well, it'd be worth a conversation, that's for sure, to say, hey, would you be willing to
And actually,
support a dog park on your school site?
I doubt
I
it.
doubt that.
Yeah.
I rather doubt
I
that.
think what I took away from that comment too was that there was, they were upset about the user fees. And that's kind of where the all-county
No.
valley-wide, the user fees for the dog park at the parking.
No, so Councilwoman Franchina's comment was that there was interest in a more centrally located dog park. Someone else, I think, Councilmember Wyrick,
said
then
that.
kind of confused the issue and
Oh,
said
got
it's
it,
the
okay.
parking fee. But the concern wasn't the parking fee, it's just
Location.
that that's kind of
Well,
out of town.
and it's interesting because, we have plenty of folks over at Sarasota who use that park as the default dog park. And
Yeah.
I've had to go out on a few occasions to say, look, there's a leash ordinance. You have to have your dogs on a leash. I suggest going over to the Soul Park, dog park, and the response is usually, we don't like confined dog parks. We don't want to have our dogs inside fenced area because it's dangerous, because some users bring, some dog owners bring their dogs in there, and then they're trapped and they get fight. So I'm just saying, these are whether true or these are the
Sure.
kind of responses. So I'm not sure, just based on the kind of commentary I get about, hey, you can go over to Soul Park. It isn't, I don't want to pay the fees to park there. They say
It's too small.
they're not, it's too small. It's not good
Right. So
enough.
I don't think that's an issue we can resolve. But Councilwoman Francina did say she's the moderator of a large pet.
Animal Kingdom of
Animal
Ojai or
Network.
something.
Kingdom.
Yeah.
Kingdom.
And she did say that she was willing to kind of work on this. So maybe it'd be good for her to round up some ideas from them about
Because maybe we
locations.
could coordinate with like the conservancy that already has open space and kind of mask it within,
They're
It's not
all
visible or-
on leash and
Yeah.
not active use.
no, if you built something large enough to address their needs centrally located in one of the conservancy lands, that might address the issue. I think the one at Soul Park, it is pretty small. I mean,
Well,
if
I-
you have a big dog.
Right, but I think it's an interesting conundrum, because the idea of having off-leash, a lot of people feel like that's something that should be okay, but I don't know if they all understand that
Yeah.
it's not okay. It's against the law. It's not legal on Shelf Road. It's not legal in our parks. It's not legal on any of the
Unless they're in a
preserves.
confined, designated, that's what I'm saying.
Only at Soul
Yeah.
Park. That's,
Right,
yeah.
but if they had something similar to Soul Park but larger to meet their
Mhm.
demands,
Yeah.
then it's still legal, as long as it's confined, it can be larger. But I'm just
Yeah.
saying, the only other space that comes to mind that would even address that would be some of the conservancy properties.
Which would be up to them, but I would be concerned because they're constantly trying to do restoration. So anything that you're blocking off and having people run all over is a hard sell from a restoration's point of view.
Well, the other park, that's the hidden park, maybe the Daily
Yeah.
is
Oh, and White
but
Oaks.
quite a large area and seldom used. And it is surprising how few people
Actually,
seemingly go over to that
a
park.
lot
I
of
don't
people
know.
go over there.
Do
Once
quite a bit.
Topa closed, a lot of people.
A lot of
Oh,
people
that's
are
a little
started
Yeah.
using Daily.
And again, they're off leash.
Yeah,
And as a neighbor,
right, no, but I'm saying it wouldn't require, well,
It would
you
require-
could put fencing
Fence.
around that too. You
Right.
just put a perimeter fence and
but there's not much parking.
there isn't.
So you're asking a neighborhood to take on cars and all that parking where there's not much parking,
It's true.
nor is that really the size and location. And I am a neighbor, I will put right out there, I live right near there.
Yeah.
It's just to be really, really clear about it, but that would be
it-
an intensely different feeling in that neighborhood if you started making it a dog park, when it's
Yeah.
really a pocket park.
Yeah.
I think the dog park is something that we really shouldn't get involved in.
Right.
Because first of all, dog owners, it's almost like a parent, there are parents to their dogs, and they get very, uptight, and I could see where this could just really be a huge problem. I don't think we should get involved in it. It's not.
I would agree. I don't think we have the space
We don't have
to
the
solve it.
space, and the fact that so many owners do let their dogs run free in an area which they really should not, because it's against the law. So,
It is a very heated topic.
yeah, it's
It
very
is.
heated.
And I think that's what Susan's talking about. She manages that online forum, and it's very,
Yeah, and
it's
they-
very intense.
Yeah, but
It-
it's not something that.
There is this, with all due respect, there is this sense of entitlement. Like there's this, particularly at Sarasota, you have this big open grassy area.
Mhm.
I have a dog that likes to run. I'm going to let my dog run in the park. I know it's against the rules. I know it's against the law. but I like to let my dog run free.
Yeah, well,
And so that's,
like one day.
and I don't think personally a dog park in a confined space will resolve that mentality.
We just, we don't have enough space. We don't, I mean, we have such a limited amount of space that we program so intensely. And
Yeah.
that's like being there one day while there are dogs running all around and there's Pee Wee soccer happening.
Yeah.
And they're at Sarzodi. Sarzodi is one of those parks, it's hard to pick a time where that would, so I just.
That would be the only possibility, quite frankly, is if you said, if
But I don't
there
think,
was some sort of allowance to say, hey, from 8 to 9 or 10 a.m., 8 a.m. to 10 a.m., you can have a free,
You'd still have to
you still
enclose
can't
it.
do it.
Can't do
you
it
have
those
to, I
days.
know, you'd still have to close it off somehow, I
Well,
understand.
they did that temporarily at Soul Park when they were repairing the dog park.
Oh,
In
interesting.
the back, they had signs up saying, between these hours, off leash, only in this area, and it was in the far back corner by the equestrian area.
Right.
I have a big dog, and I use that park on a regular basis.
Does it get well used?
It does get well used, and
Yeah.
it's not well maintained either. It's mostly chewed up tennis balls and the camp host going out there to pick up after the dogs every now and then from the people who don't.
Who don't, yeah.
But,
Do most of the owners pick up?
most of the owners do, yeah. But that's, sometimes you're talking to other owners and you don't see your dog squatting in the corner, you know? It's just not practical. And I've seen my dog go and I've gone and hunted for it and I couldn't find it.
yet.
So it's, it is what it is. It's a small area. I like my dog to be off leash when I can, but I only let that happen in areas where it's allowed.
Yeah.
I live next to Topa as well, and my backyard is one of those backyards.
Oh, yeah.
And whether it's closed or not, I still see people tossing their dog over the fence. I've seen people with
Oh,
dirt bikes,
Really?
motorbikes out there digging in the dirt, making ramps, on the weekends. It's
Yeah.
I doubt that they're going to be very receptive to.
Well,
any
here's
kind
the
of
interesting
dogs.
thing about that, though. The dogs maybe not, but for years, I actually think the campus is safer when people are on it. When the kids are there and the parents are there and there are people actively there, you have eyes on that campus like you wouldn't at all if you don't let people in.
Until dark,
Yeah,
and that's when the teenagers come out.
well, that luckily has lots of neighbors. But yes,
So it sounds like, maybe we just pass this back to Councilwoman Francina to round up ideas. If
Yep.
well,
if
or
there's interest
or
that-
to be clear,
that
I
we have
think
concerns.
that we don't have the space in our current system.
I agree. Can we do we want to do it? Of course,
If we had more space.
but we can't.
With the little amount of park space that we have in the city with, as many users as we have to do it, we don't have any space to do this.
But having said that, we can still keep researching to see
Yeah.
if we can pull some space from somewhere, or at least give them a little head start jump, on their project, because it's their project, really.
Right.
Yeah.
If it's outside of park or open space within the city of Ojai, it wouldn't be our project, it'd be somebody else's.
Yeah, so,
In the community that I lived in for so many years, this was brought up, and they actually did something about it. They used the dump area to create a very large open space for the dogs. And it worked, because there was a good size of land there. So,
Yeah,
You know.
try to find a big parcel that isn't the side of the
but I mean,
bowling
at
alley
first I was
parking
like,
lot.
the dump? Oh my God, I don't know.
There's a few available, but they're in the tens of millions of dollars.
yeah, right, they're not,
Right,
they're
yeah.
not in the public ownership.
Yeah.
But that was the only area that everybody that was on the commission could agree with, and that was it.
It is that's a tough
Yeah, that's
thing.
why
It's a- It's a
I
tough
just-
issue to resolve.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll follow up with Councilwoman Francina.
Okay.
Let her know what we discussed. It seems like there's nothing more for us to discuss, unless we get some great proposal to chew on.
Or a huge amount of land.
Or a huge amount of land,
Just throw it out there, just in case.
Yeah, if anyone wants to give us some land, yeah.
talk to us.
You put a plaque on the,
Okay, so then the next thing was the Nordhoff basketball courts. Mayor Johnston had asked about those courts and if,
I think that was more of an instead of. That was the way I heard it, it was an instead of doing this, couldn't we do this?
Utilize what's already built, but I think we kind of covered that they're completely different in structure and
And things.
usage, right?
Yeah, inform. Those outdoor courts are not the best. I don't even know. I've never measured them out. I doubt if they're even regulation. Not that that's a huge factor, but they're just not the most well-made, best courts. And again, you rightfully pointed out, it's not in that central location where you have families who are able to do multiple things.
okay. So any interest in pursuing this? Sounds like no. Okay. Pickleball. So that's going to come up. That's item 8B. So I'm going to skip that one. And then the old dumpster area at Sarzati. So I think there's a good point that now that it's in the master plan to get rid of that, we should follow up with Mr. Grant.
Yeah, it just comes down to, I think, what's the cost of removing it? How essential is it at this point in time?
We're clear it's not essential.
It's not essential. No,
It's not.
No, it serves no purpose.
We have
currently.
brought this
It
up
has
before.
it has no use, but the question is, how important is it? What's the cost of removing it? What's the cost of, what's
And
the
the
cost
last
of
time that I
removing
brought
it?
it up-
And what's the priority, right?
The last time I brought it up was before we paved, and that was why I brought it up before we paved. And that part, I just want to bring back that's where this came from, because we were paving over there, and that was why I brought it up when I did, in the hopes that we could do it when it wasn't too
Demo
expensive.
it. Yeah,
But it didn't happen. But I still think we should talk about it, because the part of the master plan is, if we are looking to move forward with things, the more we can create this space and take out little projects as we go, the easier it will be when we get to do bigger projects, because I think it's not as overwhelming. Like, when people see a lot of obstacles, it slows things down. And I would still think it'd be very useful to get rid of that.
yeah.
Is it an eyesore?
Yes.
Well,
It creates a bottleneck.
there you go.
And the parking
Uh,
lot doesn't work as
While
well.
that is a parking lot,
you go.
it creates a bottleneck. I think that's the biggest issue.
And you could look
Well-
at creating a bottleneck for
Yeah.
two ways,
Yes, that's
It'll
right.
slow people down.
Yep.
It's not ideal. It makes it very narrow at the entrance and exit right there when you're trying to, by the baseball field.
It
You
does.
can see it.
It does. It's a one person,
Makes it one way.
at that point, it is a one way in, one way out kind of option because of that dumpster being there, or that enclosure. It's not a
It's not
dumpster.
even-
It's an enclosure that's there.
Right.
But I guess Greg could just price it out,
Yeah.
what does it cost to demo it? And you'll probably still, he talked about needing to extend the speed bump that exists there, and, just what's it all gonna cost to demo it and then repave over it? And where is that on the list of
Well,
priorities?
I think that one of the things that was pointed out from the council was the fact that to try and do the things that are possible, like do that, get rid of it, it's done, and then you go on to something else. Because if it keeps repeating itself, after every, 6 months to a year, I mean, that's
Yeah.
not really very productive.
Yeah, well, we'll see if we can come back with at least a demo
price
and
and-
a price.
price, a
Yeah,
price.
A cost on
Yeah,
it.
it probably, well, I have no idea, but
Me either.
I'm not gonna guess.
Demoing isn't the expensive
Yeah.
part.
What?
The demoing isn't the
Yeah.
expensive part, I don't think.
Okay, so we'll follow up with Mr. Grant about that. So that was it. So working with the Y.
Yeah, I want to make a comment on that.
Okay, please, go ahead.
Well, I was very excited to hear the mayor speak about the fact that he had met, I don't know who it was, but, because I have heard that there's an organization in town here, and they are on the move to, work with the Y and get a swimming pool. So I'm going to contact this person, because somebody called me up about it, because I'm very much in favor of that. If you can get an organization like the Y to be the partner, you're really up there. You're gonna have it accomplished. So I'm gonna talk to this woman and see exactly what the situation is. But I was happy to hear that the mayor had already done this. This is very, very positive.
Soph, have you been involved at all or contacted?
It's the first.
So they
when-
went directly
no,
to the mayor?
Yeah, it's the first, at the joint meeting was the first I heard of.
Yeah.
I'd
the
heard-
Y
I'd
even
heard
coming
rumors,
in
but
the
I just
valley.
didn't know what was.
So it sounds like it'd be nice if we could get an update from whoever is working on this to understand
Yeah.
kind of what they're interested in and whatnot. So is that, maybe I can follow up with the mayor and see if we can get connected.
Sure, yeah, if you want to,
I think it would
if
be
you like,
wonderful.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because
And
I think.
I will
yeah.
contact this person.
Yeah, I do think
Okay.
it would take definitely a joint effort to.
Oh, for
you
sure.
know, For finding the property, the build itself, and how that joint effort would
Mhm.
work and
Mhm.
coordinate. Yeah.
Well, it's certainly well needed here, for the kids.
Yeah,
So well needed.
yeah.
Yeah,
Comes up all the time.
I bet it does.
it
I
does.
mean, all you have to do is be here one hot summer like I was, and you
Yeah.
say, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else on that? So we'll do some follow-up, and then the Valleywide Parks District. We have the committee.
Wow.
Yeah.
We have plans to meet as well.
Yeah.
Yay.
Okay.
Soon.
That is no small
Yeah, that is
undertaking, of course.
monumental.
It's
Well,
like,
it's
a
chipping off some
huge-
small pieces.
Yeah.
And
For years
there's,
now, right?
yeah, well, no, but I think the
I
timing
just
may
don't-
finally be right.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of things going on before that made it a little difficult, but those things have passed.
The council's expressed some interest, so that makes it
Yeah.
feel a little supportive.
Yeah.
So that was really productive. Anything else from the joint meeting anyone wants to bring up? Okay.
I do.
Yeah. Mhm.
Maybe for the next meeting, if it's allowed, can we vet some of these questions that they may have, maybe get a list? Or at least give a partition, a small portion of this for questions, so that it doesn't seem like we're getting hijacked by
Yeah.
side questions that are unrelated to what the agenda listing the bullet items were. We want to address everything, but we don't want to sit there and just answer
Mhm.
questions about the picnic area in
Mm.
Sarasota being dirty, which is a legitimate concern. But
More of a staff issue too.
it took a big chunk out of our meeting, and it took away from some of our detailing in our bullet points, I think. So in reflection, in retrospect, and Soph and I were discussing this for a little bit, the meeting was certainly better than, and more organized than the one prior, but it could still be better too. So what else can we do? I mean, that's allowed.
I think it'd be worth sending out to each council member, if you have some things that you have already thought about that you'd like us to address, please let us know. And they tend to not want to do that because it's supposed to be us bringing what we're going to do to them, but I think that would be the best thing to do, is if you have some specific items, can you let us know in advance so that we can be more prepared? It's never going to not be kind of what it is, because it's the get-together once a year where everyone can talk at the same time about issues that they think of that night, or that they've already thought of. But I think the idea of contacting every council member and then having them submit things they might like us to be ready for would be good.
Yep, and so we can put it on the agenda of things, a bullet point for questions. Because as it stood, we were, okay, topic 1, topic 2, topic 3. Oh yeah, I've got a list of questions. Topic 4, topic 5. Here's another list of questions that are unrelated to the topics.
Yeah.
And that's easy to get that's exactly what it was. It was getting sidetracked.
But it is part of what the meeting's meant to be.
Right.
So there's an element of that that will, the agenda is meant to be a starting point, but there's always meant to be the ability to talk freely in the group with both bodies.
I agree, that's
Yeah.
fine. I just wish it was a little more organized to some degree. You know, because it would, I don't want to say it was distracting, but it was certainly
We
was,
weren't prepared, we didn't.
we weren't
yeah.
prepared, right? And when we have a topic that we just want to discuss from start to finish, to be jumping around on that same topic where random questions are coming in, you know,
Yeah.
like hits in a boxing match.
Well,
Right.
and some
I
opposing
think, yeah.
views. too,
Right, and
I mean,
opposing
we kinda
views.
felt like we're in the middle, I felt like I was in the middle of
I
those.
kept my mouth shut so that we can keep the things on track and keep going, you know, because everybody has 2 cents they want to put in. But in the interest of keeping that meeting within an hour, you know,
And I think a lot of the issues could have been just addressed with staff. If we would have had some questions, they
Mhm.
could have, you could have addressed them. I mean,
Yeah, like
seems
more,
simple.
more directed than, not for the entire group, but just, hey, your picnic areas are, you know, not, they're subpar, or they need to be more monitored more on a regular basis. You know, that's something that could be directed just
Right.
at our staff, without taking the time
there
of the
was
group,
a-
but, I think,
Yeah, it's something to
again,
keep in
Chair
mind
Firestone
for
did a
next
good
year.
job with redirecting.
You did.
And, you know, while there were definitely some sidebars and went off track, Chair Firestone did redirect a decent amount of the time.
I agree.
But we weren't able to go into enough detail on our specific topics, though.
Yeah.
welcome.
Yeah.
I- I would say too, if you watch some of the others. It's not, it is a unifying theme to all of them.
I have no
Just
doubt.
to, just to be,
No
just to
doubt.
be,
Yeah.
you know, so that it's not unique to ours, or
It
you
seems
did a
like-
very good job.
Well, to back up Eric, I think also what you could do is have them just a priority. And after we receive their questions, we can discuss whether those questions are priority or not and are very important. I mean, we shouldn't be spending, I don't know how much time we spent, but about the cleaning of the picnic tables. I mean, wow, with all the stuff that we've got going?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
Some
mean,
of those questions they had for some time, and we have a liaison report every meeting where some of those questions can be addressed.
Yeah, that's a good point.
you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's a good suggestion. It seems like we've
Yeah.
got some room for improvement in the next year. And
Yeah.
I think making use of the liaisons and encouraging them to come to our meetings to talk about some of these things is probably a good step. And then organizing the presentation a little differently to kind of have a spot for all of those comments would be helpful. So that sounds good. Anything else from the joint meeting? Okay. Item 8B, maybe the most interesting item on the agenda, pickleball in Ojai.
Yeah.
Sophocles, you've got
Yeah.
a
I can
for
give you
us.
a quick update on what has been discussed up until this point. So, I've met with Tim Kraut, who is the appointed, or he's the organizer of this group. And they have been using the Matilahaw courts for, I don't know, I'm not quite sure how long. And I think they do it every weekday, not just maybe the Tuesday or Wednesday that Commissioner Murphy had mentioned. I think it's more regular than that. But either way, I don't know all the details of how often they meet, but they do have temporary taped lines on one court. And as I mentioned in the joint meeting, you can get 2 pickleball courts on 1 tennis court. So have temporary tape lines on one of the tennis courts, and they have permanent lines on the other court at the Matilahaw courts. And I can only assume that they got permission from Ojai Unified to do what they've done. I went out there and I checked it out and I played a game or two. And so they, prior to me going out there, another representative of their group came and I had a meeting with them to discuss the possibility of using Libby's courts. So I'll just fast forward to after discussions with that person, with our city manager to say, and with the Ojai Valley Tennis Club, and with our tennis professional to say, hey, they'd like to be able to use Libby courts because soon, on November 4th, we're going to fall back and they're not going to have any lights, and they want to keep the momentum of the group that they've built up into this point to keep playing in the evening. And they need lights, and the only place that has them are the Libby tennis courts. So what we're going to propose is this, and this is where you come in to say, well, can we do to use one of Libby's upper courts, court number 2. Use one of those courts from November through March, or whenever we spring forward. So use it on a very finite time period, and just use one of the courts, which will mean 2 courts for them, so they can have up to potentially 8 people playing at a time.
Yep.
So, and I think they'll be receptive to that, to be honest with you. And I wouldn't say the tennis club was overjoyed by the news, but they are a segment and a group that are building, and that is a sport that is growing. But I think going forward, there should be some long-term location for them, for the pickleball group to try to identify.
Is there a reason it's just November to March?
Just because of daylight.
I know, but
The Matilaha is available when daylight is not an issue, is that?
Right,
Yes.
right. Matilaha, they're not losing Matilaha.
no, I understand, but if this is something that community members would want, and there's an active following of, and it doesn't damage the courts, does it? The equipment is compatible
No,
with our surfacing and all the things that are going on there, right?
Yeah, so they bring out portable nets
Into each side and
into
then,
each side of the court. But I have to say, if you were a tennis player and you had multiple lines on the court, they would be very distracting for the tennis player. You know, they
That's
just
true.
are.
So is the striping that you do on there permanent, or is it something that can be taken off?
Well, right now, it's like they have painter's tape over at the Matilaha courts.
Oh, what's intended though
And,
for
yeah.
Oh,
Libby?
What are you
Same
proposing?
thing. Yeah,
Just
temporary painter's tape. to
Remove
put
it
down there.
after each day,
I-
or they want to leave it for November through March?
That, likely. I mean, it would be very time
Consuming to do that each time.
consuming to be out there retaping your lines every time,
Every day, yeah.
every time you came out
But-
to play. I mean,
But
it would
there is the possibility also, I mean, it wouldn't happen here because, again, lack of space, but in a lot of communities with pickleball, they play indoors. And so they can take the lines up and put them down. I've watched them do it in Colorado, for instance, where my sister plays. And it's kind of amusing because they have, out there, they have an actual pickleball court that is outside, but most of the players want to be inside.
Oh, interesting.
They have more control of the ball, you know? So, but it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal to take the lines up and then put them back again. Easy.
There's a specific system for quick
Yes.
up and,
And what is quick?
how do you know what the methodology is
No,
on
but
it?
I don't, but
Oh.
I could probably find out, you know?
And the Ojai Valley Tennis Club said there's a possibility of using the lines that currently exist to make it work with pickleball. I know it doesn't seem,
You mean the tennis line?
yes,
Oh, no.
I know. I had the same reaction, but without being
No.
a doubting
As a tennis player, I can
person,
tell
I-
you, no. it
I've
doesn't-
been
Yeah.
YouTubing
Yeah.
pickleball.
have you? Have you?
So I
Well,
understand. I've watched the process of taping a temporary court
Uh-huh.
as part of this, and so
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, I mean,
Yeah, so if there is a quick methodology to do it, to lay them
Yeah.
down
Yeah.
and pull them off without doing any
But you're,
damage to
but
the
you're
courts,
saying in the
great.
gym.
In the
She's
gym.
speaking
Oh, you're
of
saying
indoors,
indoors.
Indoors,
in the
not
gym
with
situation.
that.
So, no.
Oh, sorry.
a question I have is, of the courts in Libby Park, how frequently are all of the courts in use right now for tennis?
Well, the lower
Lower
courts
courts.
especially are,
Sure.
between the adult lessons and the youth lessons and Wild Tennis Academy rental,
Mhm.
very,
However-
very
And upper
limited
courts?
amount of
The
time.
upper courts.
The upper courts
not
are
so much.
not as much.
Okay,
No.
so it doesn't
There's-
sound like it'd be a big impact for this winter period to
It
kind of
wouldn't
reserve
really.
one of those courts for pickleball.
Because I've been down
Right.
there at many times where no one has been up
You're
on the-
saying on the upper?
on the upper.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it is more widely available,
Yeah.
the upper court is, but if you mentioned about reserving it, well, if they wanted, as we do with some of our users that say, I want these courts for this specific time, then they have to pay a fee to reserve.
Mhm.
But my sense is if there's pickleball lines on one of the courts, a tennis player that comes out and there's other courts available on the upper courts, they're going to use those as
Oh,
opposed
sure.
to the
Right,
ones that
but
have
we could
pickleball
also
lines on.
say, as a city, that this court is going to be
Right.
used for pickleball,
Right.
so these lines are going to
Because
stay.
they're not
Right.
charging. This is all free, this
Right.
is
Yeah.
all community-based, this isn't
Yeah.
an organization per se,
Yeah.
this is,
So the reason you asked for the specific time in the one court. So the one court is just to try it out. This is experimental. Let's see how it's received by the public and, just if it's necessary to have more than one court, what is the audience for pickleball right now? Is it 30? Is it 10?
Yeah.
I-
I don't
I just have
know.
to say, I really appreciate how this has happened, actually.
Yeah.
Tim Kraut had an interest, he got together a group,
Yeah.
he worked with the school district, he went and tried it out, he now has people who are interested in doing it. He's now created a whole new opportunity for people to recreate and exercise. So
Yes.
I would love to, I think we should embrace it, and
I do
I'm
too.
glad that you've worked out that there's one court and that for a certain period of time, we'll
Yeah.
see how it goes.
Yeah.
Because this is exactly the kind of community-inspired activities that I think we are here to
Yeah.
support, promote, and
And
make
promote.
work.
Yes.
Because they're clearly, I mean, this isn't a private organization, this
No.
isn't, there's no money changing hands,
Nope.
this is
No.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Right.
And I
And
think-
in
I think
other
this-
community it's big.
It's
I mean,
huge.
it's really
huge.
big.
It's
This-
huge.
So I'm so excited we can support Tim and
I
his
am
project
too.
and those
I
who are
am too.
playing.
And I think that Sophocles is working out the hours. It's just perfect, one court, 8 people. I mean, that's a really good start.
It is a good
It's a
start.
good
and
start.
We'll see where it takes.
So do we need,
we need right
sorry to
now?
interrupt, do we need a commission recommendation
Is that what you're looking for?
to move this forward? or-
Sure, it would be nice to get the, let's say
It does say recommendation on the agenda.
the blessing, I guess. Yeah,
Right.
that you have
Yes.
heard the request. I mean, they didn't specifically make the request that I'm proposing, but that, well, I'm
I-
not
Okay,
telling
so
you
I-
you
I-
should support
I
it,
think-
but
Sure.
if you're in support of it, if this sounds like a good plan to you, it'd be
Right,
nice to
and
make
the
an
specific
official
request
recommendation.
is to designate one tennis court at Upper Libby for the daylight, it's not the daylight savings time, right? It's the
It's
Well,
around.
non-daylight
It is,
savings.
November 4th is actually the
But,
fallback time.
right, but is that, so are we currently in daylight savings time, or is that after the fallback time?
I don't
No,
think we've changed that.
No, I know we haven't changed, but
Oh, do you
part of
call
the year
this
is called
What do you-
daylight savings time, and part
Oh,
is
which part
not.
are we in? I can never
Yeah.
figure that out, sorry, I'm not helpful.
But the recommendation is whatever those,
The hours
the
of light
fall
are less, that's when they can
and
use the
spring time
courts.
changes are, for that, whatever that
Yeah.
period is between the
Yeah.
fall time change and the spring time change.
Yes.
that one court in Upper Libby is designated for pickleball.
Number 2.
Pickleball.
Number 2.
Court number 2
Court number 2,
specifically.
Are
with no permanent lines. It's
I
all,
think that's
With no
Everything's
permanent
temporary.
lines, with temporary taped,
It
And
doesn't
lines.
impact the court's integrity when they're
Right.
done, right?
right.
it won't.
So are you
Um,
making that, or are you looking for that?
I'm looking for that, yeah, if we're all on board.
Okay, I make a recommendation to council that we designate court number 2 for fall, winter, November possibly to March, for pickleball, where they can use temporary lines and their own equipment.
And I second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay,
Great.
motion passes.
I
All right,
will-
so we
I
have a
will meet with
recommendation.
their group and without any council opposition or, the city manager too is aware of this proposal, and
Great.
it's nice that this body will support that.
Good.
Yep.
This sounds like a great thing. One other thought I had was I noticed from learning about creating pickleball courts that you can actually fit 4 courts in a tennis court. And
Oh, for singles?
so no,
No,
it's the
just
same
for-
size court for singles and doubles. It just means that you have 2 courts with a space in between them, but possibly there is some ball transfer
Some-
between the courts.
need
But
to
that
be-
might be something to consider too. If
be better
there's so
players.
much demand for
Right.
pickleball, they could
Um,
try squeezing in 3 or 4 courts.
Like you, I saw it in person over at the Patillaha courts, but I also, prior to that, went online. And you can see the potential multiple configurations, but of course, putting 4 pickleball courts on 1 tennis court, you can imagine the line confusion.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely, for sure.
Right. But again,
The
this is-
tennis players probably
this-
wouldn't play on that
Temporary.
tennis.
We're
But this
talking
is,
about
yeah, this is temporary.
No, I know what you're
We're
saying,
designating a
Chair
court
Firestone.
for
I-
pickleball for a few months.
Yes,
Yeah, but I
Chair
mean, we have to
Firestone,
see
I like
Right.
your enthusiasm. We could go
Well,
4 courts on 1
Yeah,
tennis.
gonna be
right,
huge.
But
Yeah.
we'll see how this works out, that's the
Yeah.
thing. And this is a great idea, just, for that purpose alone.
Okay.
But I know that the people that love pickleball and what he's done has been amazing.
Mhm.
Because, I think other communities have had pickleball for over a decade,
Yeah, it's true,
And-
actually, yeah.
And there's just so many people that play it, and most of these people are over 50 and, don't play tennis, and it's a much easier game on your body rather than tennis. Anyway,
And this is coming from a tennis player.
and this is
so,
from a
yeah.
tennis player.
And other communities have just built pickleball courts. And
Right,
so again, we need more space.
we
and
do.
more.
Mhm.
Back to that same old thing.
All right.
We're back to that.
Well, great. So we have our recommendation. So then item 8C, multi-sport courts. So I think, the idea here is to discuss next steps. I think probably we need Mr. Grant to get his input on
Yes, but I did have a conversation with him prior to this meeting
Okay.
about this topic, and if this commission is going to stick with the idea of, hey, we want to build 2 at once, then the next step is waiting till we have enough funds to move forward with it, because there isn't much more we can do
Well, this is,
process-wise.
but this is
I-
an interesting
yeah.
question. We haven't heard back from council. We told them what we wanted, we explained, we've been very clear about our what we're hoping for, and we've had no response. So I think the next is to get a response not from Greg
Mhm.
and not from us, but from council. Is there a possibility of more money? This is the project we want to do. What do you think? Because that was the question we asked that
Did
night.
it go to council? Was it an agenda
Well-
item for them to
well,
discuss?
It was on our joint meeting, but we didn't go into enough detail
Yeah.
about would use.
Well, I don't know that we didn't go into detail. We told them what we were hoping for.
Yeah.
We explained the project, and they went, oh, okay. and then we moved on. Council didn't talk about it per se or make a judgment, but we made a clear presentation of what we would like to do.
Yes.
And that the budget is different than what we have. I don't think there's any confusion.
Right.
So I think next steps are not here, from my perspective. They're getting some clarification there, which is not from Greg Grant, because he doesn't make the budget. I mean, he helps set the budgets up, but if we want more money, and that's something we really would like to do, that's a question we need to get asked, and we need to ask and get answered.
Well, and maybe it needs to be a regular agenda item at
it-
a regular meeting for
For
open
city
discussion and
council.
public input.
Yeah.
That's more, I'm not sure how the joint meeting was agendized and if it was clear to the public that there was going to be a fiscal impact on, they didn't make any
Well,
decisions. So I'm not
yeah.
sure, like agenda-wise, I think it needs to be probably agendized on their regular meeting and item for discussion. And then if we want to come and provide support, we can.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
no decision's been made on that, so the whole idea of I think it's not in our hands at this point, where we've put it
We
to
need
them
to
and we're
have-
asking for,
Approval or
Of-
denial of our recommendation so we can move
Yeah.
forward.
Right.
I know it's a different way
Yeah,
to
how
look at
that-
it than we've done things
Well,
before.
how that
but-
would be, how that would set up to get that get that agendized to say we'd like to see funding for 2 courts.
Which is it was very clear in our meeting, that was
Yeah.
what we were wanting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and that
Definitely.
the budget we had wasn't enough.
Ryan, could,
It seems like something we need to work with Mr. McCleary on. To
Yes.
And
try to get
remember,
this
we
city
did not
manager to
discuss
get
lighting.
Agendized.
Lighting was in,
Just that we would stub out
Stub,
for it, but that we
exactly.
wouldn't, yeah.
so that has to be brought up too.
And-
Because I think there was even a discussion of what's the difference, and Bill Wyrick weighed in, he's like, I'm looking at your budgets, here's what the difference would be. So it was even discussed to that level, and no decision was made, but there
yeah,
was
actually, I heard
clarity
one
on
of them
that.
say, oh, so you're asking for
This much money,
200 and
yeah.
something, right.
So it wasn't, I mean, the discussion happened, we just don't have an outcome.
Right. And I guess that's getting back to the follow-up on the joint meeting is,
Yeah,
Yeah,
we probably, I can speak to the city manager about potentially
steps.
getting it as a discussion item with, specifically in regard to funding.
mhm.
But if I could backtrack to 8A just for a moment, because we have someone in the audience that might have wanted to speak on the follow-up
sure.
with one of the
Yeah.
discussion items.
Hi.
Hi.
Oh,
What's
it was,
that? It was a follow-up to our joint meeting, which one of those topics were the Libby lawn. Were you here to talk about that? Am I correct in
I got in
assuming
here
that?
just as you, I guess we're closing that out. My
Yeah.
name is Jamie Bennett. I'm the president and CEO of the Ojai Music Festival. And it was interesting, you had agendized it correctly. It is the Libby Bowl, and the lawn is part of the Libby Bowl. I was sort of surprised to see it come before Parks and Rec and not before the Arts Commission. The festival, as you may know, has occupied that space, and in 2010-11, the original bowl was torn down and a new bowl was built in its place. And that the lawn, which is there now, was originally a raked space, and people could sit on grass and see the performances in the bowl, in the seating part of the bowl. And Bill Wyrick, in the last meeting you had, I got a chance to see it online, I think understood the history quite well, and that was that the community, the city, and the funders all thought that we were going to have a raked lawn there with sight lines. And as Bill said in his comments, it was interesting because it's where the majority of the people in Ojai sit who come to the Ojai Music Festival. And we run, in a short period of time, 35 events in the city of Ojai over 4 days. It's really quite remarkable. So what happened was, as you were told by Bill, there was a problem, an ADA inspection at the last minute during the construction of the bowl, and the cost of the bowl went up as a result of that, the seating area of the bowl. And so they value engineered out the raking of the lawn. And as a result, we have a flat lawn, and like anything else, nature abhors a vacuum. The flat lawn now has a constituency of people who have dogs who run on it and would like to see nothing happen to it. But it was the original conception. The funds that we, our staff, went out and raised for the whole concept included a raked lawn that would have benefited the people of Ojai by having reasonably priced seats that had sight lines to the bowl. So I wasn't sure what you were going to be doing today, so I just showed up on the off chance you talked about it. But pickleball is really important. I'm telling you, my wife plays pickleball and is part of this group of people, and it's I'll tell you something. You do one court this year, next year you're going to have two.
I agree with you.
It's unbelievable.
It is. It's
and
just
it's great for old
it's
people
huge.
like me.
It's huge.
I can even.
So regarding the lawn,
Yeah.
I think,
but let me just say, this was the meeting that you had with the city council was terrific. I mean, my goodness, you are a smart group of people. You asked good questions. The presentation was terrific. The presentation of the opinions, the scale of opinions, and the comments you'd gotten, and the extremes, and all of that. It was remarkable. And I'm used to sitting here listening to city council, and I didn't realize the Parks and Rec Commission had such smart people on it.
thank you.
That's just a way to butter you up, so you'll.
Yeah, I think if you watch the meeting, I think you understand. They requested that we get public opinion on this, and that's what we did. We collected opinion and organized it.
I just happened to hear about it, luckily, so I was able to, watch it and was able to respond. I think I sent an email in. But as I say, to me, it is turned into a recreation space sort of inadvertently because it wasn't raked. It was really an art space. And so when I first heard it was being considered by you all, I thought, well, that's the end of ever having a raked lawn, because if I were an advocate for recreation, I would want to keep it flat. But as I say, the original conceit of it was that it was part of an arts facility or a performance facility, and which would obviously favor sightlines over recreation.
Well, and the Libby Bowl has always been part of the park, and that's always come before this board.
Right, yeah. And
This commission, even before we were involved, those of us who were commissioners then were involved in the process
Right.
of the plan.
Oh, really? Okay. I
Absolutely,
didn't know that.
on some of those committees, yeah, and I saw that through. I've been here too long, but yes, I was here for all of the planning and the redevelopment of the new. So that's the history there. It wasn't specifically because it was a recreation item, it's because that
Fell in
park
the
as a
park.
whole
Got it.
is looked at by this body as, in all of its parts.
Right. But you're in the process of making trade-offs of, do we build a new tennis court? Do we do a new
Right.
facility here? You're not looking at arts facilities, you're looking at recreation and putting it in the context of the menu of things that you have to solve here, all of which are worthy, including permanent striping of a pickleball court or two. But I think they're all worthy things, but it's from a contextual thing, it's sort of like, okay, the arts advocates are going to say, gee, I want to be able to see the bowl, and I want to be able to do that at a reasonable price, and those are the reasonably priced seats for anyone in that. So anyway, I've said my piece. Thank you for listening. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
inviting me.
Thanks for your
Thanks
input.
for coming.
Yeah. Okay. So item 8D, Youth Commissioner recruitment. The ball is in our court. Gail has informed us that the announcement's been made, but we need to recruit.
We haven't gotten any responses.
As far as I know, no.
No,
And
we
I did
have
have
not.
Gail clarify who is eligible, and it is junior and senior age students that reside within the school district boundaries. So it's just juniors and seniors.
That's a recent change. We did that with the last changes, didn't we?
I think so. Because I'm pretty sure Maya probably came in as a sophomore,
She was.
and
Mhm.
I do think we were the body who might have bumped it up to junior,
Mhm.
senior.
Before my
When
time.
I say we, before
Yeah.
your time. We did. We made some changes on that. But I think one of the changes we did within the high school student living within the
School district
boundaries, the school district boundaries. But that doesn't mean they have to go to school in Ojai.
Right. Yeah.
It could be a Ventura student who,
Goes to private school or.
Or
and
public
live-
school
but-
in Ventura.
but they live in Ojai,
Right. So we're looking for a junior or senior.
just for clarification.
Anyone is a junior or senior or knows one who'd be interested in being on our commission, get in touch with Sophocles,
Yeah, or the city clerk,
City
or this,
clerk.
yeah.
Gail Davis.
They can
Yeah,
get a hold of you
Gail
too.
Davis, absolutely, get a hold of me.
They can ask you
They-
questions.
Yeah, they can ask me questions about it. Oh, we're gonna get to, when we get to, for the recreation staff reports in Ojai Day, that can be one of our recruiting modalities.
Right. It
for-
also seems like
for-
we should find some way to get in touch with the high school, with Nordoff and.
Yeah, and I am on the Ojai Valley Youth Foundation Board, and we meet once a month. And the last two meetings, I've talked to Francine Nelson, who's on that board, but also a teacher at Nordoff, and she's connected to, of course, that student body there, and I will continue to plug away for getting some recommendations, students from her.
Okay.
To come and apply.
Do we have like a description that we could, like almost like a job announcement type
Yeah, like
of
some
a
sort of-
bulletin? Do we have anything like that we could?
I
that
think
would
it's in
be-
the ad.
Yeah.
Or do you mean
Yeah,
something beyond that?
I just was thinking if we reached out to some of the teachers, that they could make some recommendations, but, so we didn't have to kind of give the spiel to every single one of them. It'd be nice to have something to give them.
Do you think it'd be worthwhile just to go see if we can go pitch to the ASB class? I don't know how
Yeah.
things work now, but
Hmm.
that might be a group of,
I don't know. Andy Cantwell might be a good place to start.
Yeah.
Because he might know the
Yeah.
dynamics of which groups that would be interesting.
The target groups, yeah.
are you wanting a commissioner to step up to do some of this?
Well, it would be nice. Honestly, you talked about an announcement. I could speak to our city clerk about getting the announcement that she put in the paper and how it
In
was
text
presented
email form.
there, but reformat it maybe to make it more high school language friendly.
Do you want to make this part of our other committee work and do this at the same time?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
Yeah, and then when we get to staff
It'd be
reports.
easy to send
talk-
an email to, I mean, I know a couple of the teachers and to just be able to forward an email and say, do you have any youth that would be interested? Here's our contact information, get a hold of
I'm
us.
thinking it might be nice to even just do a meeting with the principal and then
Yeah,
let them know that
Yeah,
we're,
yeah.
I know everyone's busy, but sometime going in face to face and dropping it off
it's
and,
my neighbor.
okay, well, you can just, you can walk next door then.
Well, not
What's that?
neighborhood neighbor, but
Yeah.
yes,
Right.
I see Robin every morning, so
Okay,
I'll ask Robin how she might best approach that and see what she says.
but I'd be happy to do that,
Either way.
yeah, with you, if we can work on it.
After it's been revised, as far as the announcement of what we need, is it possible to, put it in the schools on the bulletin board, if you walk into the school, can you do that?
This is how things are so very different now. with-
I don't think I
They-
think everything is really online and very technical,
Okay,
technology oriented.
Yeah.
It's really the way to reach them,
I see.
I think.
Yeah, I think so too. It should, with the opportunity, I know maybe to a high school student, I don't know, but it seems like it'd be such a great thing for their resume somehow. It's a real resume
Yeah.
builder to be on a
Yeah,
commission for 2 years, I would think.
That's the
You know.
part where we should probably consider going back to a sophomore. I have
I-
to say,
I
because by the
totally-
time
this
that a
is like-
kid is a junior,
Yeah.
they are in the cooker, like, right, they're
Right.
just, and then as a
Right.
senior, the very beginning, I mean, it's just not,
And
it's
you lose them and
easier.
we're in the same.
Yeah.
Gosh,
really
I
short.
wonder if it was sophomore and we changed it to junior,
I
I'd be
think it
surprised.
was.
Wow, I'm not sure what the reasons behind
Junior
it were,
year
but
is the
anyway.
most
I don't remember the
I
discussion.
mean,
I
there are
don't
just
either.
so many things
There's a lot of
going on.
pressure.
Oh, terrible
You'd be
amount of
surprised how
pressure.
much.
Is that how,
freshmen actually
now
are.
that that's
I mean, I'm thinking
written,
of a freshman right now.
how hard is it to change?
I think would be
I'll
great.
look-
Have to
in
agendize it.
We agendize it, I'll look into it, but I think we
But
could
we
just
can do that
agendize it,
within the
and
commission.
this body can
I
potentially,
think it has
I
to-
think so,
Go on to the council, but it could go as a consent item.
yes.
It's not something that would need to be,
And,
Okay,
and
I
I'm
agree.
just throwing it out there, I mean, some freshmen and sophomores are this, you know, it just depends on if
Yeah.
they repeated a grade or, I don't know, started kindergarten later.
Mhm.
Why are we putting a restriction on it being whether it's sophomore, junior, senior versus a freshman that's
right.
already?
I think it will, it behooves us to
Yep.
make it open to kids who have more time.
Well, a freshman has
Right.
generally
Yeah.
way more time than a
Exactly.
senior, so I mean,
Yes.
I'm
Well,
just
I-
saying, I think that
I
I
will-
have somebody that might be a great fit, but she's a freshman at Nordhoff, and but she's taking junior Spanish, so it's not a issue of maturity or intelligence. She would definitely fit the part.
There's an interview process, so you're going
Right.
to meet with the kids and.
I think that that's something we need to seriously look at agendizing to whatever regulation is that we created. Maybe that unintended consequence that we didn't foresee,
Right,
and open it up to, can't we just simply say something like high school
Right.
student?
age,
school
high school age.
So
student.
is anyone opposed to opening it up more broadly? So at our next meeting, then, we could,
I'll see if
we
it's
could
something
make the
we can
recommendation.
agendize, make a
We
recommendation,
did last time.
put it as,
Um,
as.
in the
Commissioner Amy pointed
meantime,
out.
I
Keep
think we
looking.
can be recruiting anyone in high school if that's
Sure.
our intent, and.
It would be
um,
really nice to get a younger student who has the maturity, who would potentially stay, you know, through their years.
Or even if they stay for 2 years and, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the way it's written, and I was just actually reading this earlier today. It says, all members of the Park Recreation Commission, other than the youth members, shall be appointed for a term of 4 years. The youth members shall be appointed for a term of 1 year and can be appointed for a second term. So that's 2 years max.
And that was a change too, but yes.
That was also a change?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why we're limiting ourselves. That seems, I mean, obviously, there's not a huge demand of youth commissioners knocking our
No.
door
Right.
down, so
Right.
I feel
Yeah.
like limiting it is,
Yeah.
I mean, if you have a youth that's
I
interested.
think they were doing the 1-year term because they would noise, that was
Oh,
the
that's
link
what
that
it
made
is.
sense.
Right,
But I think, I don't know why the.
or maybe open 4-year terms too intimidating, or
Right,
It
yeah.
could be
too big of a
there-
commitment for
we
their.
could have 1-year term and no term limit.
There, yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
That wants
Well,
to
can
stay
we
on.
have this on an agenda item for next month to just discuss
Yeah.
all these issues?
Sure,
Yeah,
when we,
that's a good
yeah,
idea.
you guys
Yeah.
can,
We can make
when we
some
get to
motions
that,
to make
yeah,
changes if we
let's,
want to.
let's do that.
Okay, anything else on youth commissioner?
Yep.
So then recreation staff report updates. We are running a little bit late, so
Yeah,
hopefully we
let
can
me,
keep.
I'll be as brief as I can.
Thank you.
Ojai Day, so, I think we had discussions about this body being out there, having a booth, having a table. If there are materials you would like to have at the booth,
So
Uh,
to clarify, I don't think we discussed this, but Allison
We
did
didn't.
ask me
oh, maybe
if
we didn't.
we'd be interested.
Oh,
in-
you,
Did it?
Yeah, we haven't had a
Is that-
meeting. I don't think we've had a
maybe
meeting.
we had our own internal
heard
staff
this.
discussion
I know,
about
I
you
haven't
guys
looked
being.
into
So, right, sorry, since this came up, we haven't had a
Okay.
meeting.
Oh, okay. All right,
But
so,
Allison had to request a booth, and there wasn't going to be a meeting, so I
oh,
said,
sorry, was that
sure,
just between you and
Go
Allison, you're
ahead,
saying?
request a booth.
Okay,
So we have a booth.
A clarification, this
Uh,
is beyond the regular rec booth. Because recreation
is.
always has a booth.
Yes.
it is.
So you're
It
saying
is-
a separate table
More
in
of
a
a
separate
commission
place?
table?
It's a separate table in the kind of candidate area of.
Is there a
in
reason
front
we
of
don't
the
want to
park.
just be at the recreation booth?
You could, we could just add another table in that
I
space.
think that'd be better. I think that the potential environment over there might not be, just with everything going on. I think that keeping it to Parks and Rec might be better to have us over there.
Okay,
I don't really want to, I mean, I personally don't really want to be in the middle of their political debates that are going on, that are going to happen at Ojai Day.
okay, I don't think it's that problematic to have another table in our space because we plan on having some sort of carnival
Activity.
atmosphere,
Yeah.
lots of different things going on. We've purchased a cornhole game, we purchased this giant, huge what's it called? Connect Four game.
They're really
oh,
popular right
Yeah, so we purchased one of those. So we'll have several different fun. We're gonna chalk out some hopscotch games, and anyway,
Where is the
just
rec
gonna
league
make it a
gonna be?
fun little.
You know?
It's gonna be at Fox Street, like basically the whole
Oh,
area near
wow.
the right at the end of the event where the teen stage is gonna be. So the teen stage will be in
It's
the
down Fox Street.
yeah. Well, it's gonna be in the OUSD that grassy
lawn
area
there,
with
yeah, okay.
the lawn area. So
Ah.
the teen stage will be there where there'll be performances going on
Where the
throughout the
camel
day,
used to be.
where the
Mhm.
camels used to be, and then we're gonna the Youth Foundation is actually the Ojai Valley Youth Foundation is sponsoring that stage, and then they'll have a booth near our area too. Like so, it'll be all things teen and youth down in that
So
area.
The other
space.
option is to be in Libby Park on the sidewalk row.
Right.
Right? It's
Right.
kind of-
Right, where the candidates.
So, okay, so first of all, can Allison cancel that booth that she
Yes,
reserved for us? Okay.
yes.
hard.
And then the second question is, what materials do we want at?
Right, what materials would you like there? I'm assuming our
Right.
commissioner, youth commissioner flyer, maybe.
Now that we have finalized our master plan, can we have a
Oh,
foam
yeah,
core one?
Like a color rendering.
A color foam core, large
Yeah,
size?
yeah, big.
Now that we've never done
Big.
it before because we hadn't finalized it, but
Right.
now I
That'd
think
be
we
really
should
great.
have a full size, big, so that you can get close to it and really imagine it.
Yep, we'll do that. And if you have other things, so again, I was thinking the youth commissioner flyer,
We also,
Big
regular
flyer.
commissioner flyer.
Regular
The what?
commissioner
Commissioner.
flyer?
Yes.
regular
I mean,
commissioner flyer. Right, yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, maybe a sign that says, ask a Parks and Recreation Commissioner. Just
Yeah. as
something
to
that's like
draw
kind
you
of
in.
a,
Oh,
right,
we're
and
doing
yeah,
that, right.
because I think kind of a lot of printed material just like blows away in the wind
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
people don't look at it, but
right.
just kind of advertising, we're here. And if you're curious,
So how long is Ojai Day?
It's
Like 10 to 2 or something
10 to
like that.
5.
10 to 5, yeah, it's a,
5?
it's
10
a,
to
it's a
5?
pretty long day. So we just need to figure out our shifts and.
right,
When
how
is
we're
it?
gonna do that.
It's October 20th. So it's always on the third Saturday of the month.
Okay.
So, yep, October 20th, 10 to 5, but, you know, there'll be some setup time. And
right.
so if you maybe Chair Firestone, if you wanted to try to work out a schedule.
A schedule,
of
right. It sounds like,
shifts.
so
Hour each.
who would be willing to, yeah, man the table and for how much time? I think it's-
So we have,
So I would do a couple
didn't
I'll
hours.
just say the Ojai Valley Youth Foundation does like 2-hour blocks of time.
well, because it's 7 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, we'd be willing to set up your table and whatnot, but, you know, to figure from 10 to 5.
Right, right. So I could do 2 hours.
I can too. We did
I
it
think
last
I
time.
can.
It wasn't difficult.
Okay,
I don't know exactly when yet, but yes.
okay. So I can
Maybe
send out an email and we can get people to sign up. But it sounds like we'll have
We're good.
Yeah.
most of the time covered at least.
And
So
it's,
that sounds
and
great.
if there are 2 people, it's not bad either. Yeah.
Yeah,
I can't commit to the day yet until I get home and check the manual planner.
Yes.
But I will, I can help fill in and double as a
okay,
kind of a rover.
great.
So I was just thinking that interesting things at the table. Of course, the master plan should be big and people should be able to look at it because it's final
Yes.
now.
Yes.
But I mean, maybe like the rentals over at Sarzodi, I don't think everybody thinks about that.
Yeah, I agree.
It might be
Okay.
nice to have, like, do we have a brochure for that we hand out?
No, we don't.
Okay,
You
if
mean
we- if-
specifically
With
the
pictures and
picnic
you can use it
area?
this way, like,
Yeah.
you know, kind of and rental fees. That might be an interesting thing to have on the table because I don't think everybody thinks about it, but
Sure.
not that you're not renting it enough already, but
A
No.
lot of people that don't
They don't
use
even-
the park, they don't even know
they don't
that
even
it's
think about it.
there.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
And I was
Yeah,
just
it's
thinking,
surprising, actually.
yeah.
How somewhat common that is.
And do you have an activity table? Are you having things come and go as activities or are you just having just some set activities?
Just come and go.
Okay.
Yeah, just
Oh, no, I mean like
free
different.
play. We'll
It's
have
the
a ping
same
pong table, like I
activities,
said.
okay.
We'll have a ping pong table out there, cornhole, again, the big giant Connect Four.
Okay.
We're thinking of putting on a basketball,
Hoop.
portable basketball
Nice.
hoop. Yeah, just multiple things
Pickleball.
happening out there. Pickleball. Well, they actually are going to have pickleball. They are
At the courts?
pickleball at the courts. Well, that'll be on
Kind of like the new
court
quick
court
start?
3, the whole day. Yep.
Oh.
Quick start
Quick
will
start
be
will
on
be there,
court
and then they-
1,
Oh, good.
and pickleball will be on court
That's good.
3 on Ojai Day.
Wow.
And I'm sure he'll be promoting his
Good.
hopefully newly pickleball court
Yeah,
on court
right.
2. Anyway, I'm sorry, you said the, I usually go back and watch videos.
A brochure on the picnic areas.
Brochure.
I can't, off the top of my head, I don't have other thoughts, but it might be kind of nice to have some things we put together to promote things we want to promote. I don't know.
Yeah, well,
Did you know?
Allison
Run
even,
it?
yeah, Allison even said, if you had another survey that people could go on
I was
Survey
thinking
Monkey
about
for,
that, yeah.
Mhm.
I can't think of a survey
Yeah.
where you want.
Well, I
survey,
think,
but
you know,
Well, it could
that
be-
might take
be
away
surveyed
from,
out.
exactly, that might take away the impact that we had, that Allison and Ryan worked on was wonderful. I mean, because we definitely had, good reception. So let's not overdo it.
Well,
Over survey
or it
people.
could be a user survey, like
Yeah.
something that would serve rec that we could help with. Like if we had an
Yeah.
iPad there or something, we could have people taking,
Yeah.
if you
So
guys
just-
wanted,
just
if you
if-
want us to do that.
Just if you wanted to, just that's throwing it out there. But any other things that you think you might need?
Okay.
Classes and events. So, I always do the movie night announcement. October 26th will be Hotel Transylvania. So Friday, October 26th. Parent night out, movie night.
What time is it, so?
6 p.m. starts at 6 p.m. ends at 9 p.m.
And includes
$12 admission. It includes pizza, dinner, popcorn, drink,
5 and up, right?
5 and older. Are you getting closer?
No, but I might just make a fake birth
Oh,
certificate.
there you go. Oh, that'll work.
Very mature, 40.
Not really any other big, I'm going to throw out my own plug. So Ojai Valley Youth Foundation is going to have a fundraiser at the Ventura Comedy Club on Friday, November 2nd. So anyone that wants to go to that event, they can contact me at the Recreation Department and I can point them in the right direction for that. There's also an Ojai Education Foundation breakfast fundraiser on October 11th at Nordhoff High School in their gymnasium. Starts at 8:30 a.m. if you're interested in attending that, and you can go to ojaied.org for that event. That's all I have for classes and events. You'll see on 9C, Proposition 68. I gave each of you a handout on that, and we won't go into any sort of detail about that except
you,
to
though.
say that, sure,
Yeah.
except to say that there is money out there, and I don't know what grant applications look like or whether we qualify for them or not. But I know, or at least I seem to recall this group talking about putting a grant writing ad hoc committee together. And it would be great if we were able to do that, or maybe we'll agendize that for the next meeting about forming an ad hoc committee to look into these potential grants that are out there for this Prop 68 and what funding might be available to us.
Grant writing is extremely dry,
And specific.
very specific.
So,
Well, and the city's done some internally too, so.
yes. I mean, I don't know how we got the ATP grant. And just to throw that out, there'll be an ATP meeting trying to get the acronym. You can go on to the city website. It's about transportation, or not transportation. It's
more than that.
sorry,
But yes.
I'm having a brain freeze on
That's okay.
what the acronym stands for. But there'll be it's about active transportation program, or
Or planning or something.
yeah, or planning program, where you're trying to get people to bike more, making the roadways more pedestrian, bicycle friendly. So there's actually, at the Boyd Center, there's going to be that ATP meeting on Tuesday, October 16th.
They've been publicizing it in the paper.
They've been publicizing the paper. It's on the city website with details about the grant that they received. And so I'm not sure who wrote that grant or how we received those grant monies that could have came through I can see I wasn't talking in the mic, how that came through. It probably came through our Public Works Department,
That's-
and
that-
they
I-
probably
I
wrote
think-
that
yeah.
grant. And so, but yeah, having grant writer on staff would be, of course, fantastic, but we don't have that luxury. So,
Well, but we can ask the question, if Greg's gonna be here next time,
Yeah.
about other grants that they've received for projects, how those were initiated and how they were handled, because a lot of
Yeah.
them are very project-specific too, so.
yeah.
Mhm.
And just when you see that huge $254 million
I just don't think
out
it's
there.
that huge.
Yeah, maybe it isn't as huge. Yeah, I guess
In
not.
relative, in
It's spread
relative
out.
terms.
That's true. Out of all
Yes.
of
Yeah.
California, yeah, I guess it's not very much.
It is a lot
in
of
the
money, no, but.
Looks like a lot, but maybe statewide it's not that much. I don't know.
Anything's better than nothing.
That's exactly
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Okay. And that's all. I think that's all I have.
Okay, great. Item 10, Commissioner and Committee Reports. So, Libby Lawn Seating Plan, I think we're done. I think we can
Completed that.
do away with this committee.
Well done.
Yeah, we did it. Valleywide Parks District,
We're just getting started.
Yeah.
yeah, but it sounds like
As
you have
one's
some
going out, one
plans.
is coming in.
That's great. Soul Park, Commissioner Murphy has resigned, so it doesn't seem like there's been a lot of interest on the commission about touching anything here. I don't know.
Yeah, it talk about another big undertaking to see if the county would be willing to lease that land to the city, or how we could use that property for our programming.
Right. So is there, I mean, from your perspective, should the commission be active on this? Because I don't hear a lot of interest.
No, I think more of the efforts into a park district is more more
Do you think, though, that,
valuable.
I'm not interested in the leasing taking over portion,
Mhm.
but have we done the work to see if there are things we could already be doing there programming-wise?
Right.
Because I think we keep talking about it, but just like the Parks District. But is there, we speak of how much space we don't have. Is that work that would be worthwhile to do now, because we could use that property to do other things if we could work that out from
Yeah.
a programming standpoint?
It could have potential. It would need, with our current staffing levels, it would be nice to have a commission member
Okay.
Okay.
involved
So-
in
so
that
the
and
answer
trying to,
Is yes,
Great.
but
Yes.
specifically focused toward using it for programming, not acquiring it.
right,
to be
not
very
taking
clear.
the, right,
Okay.
I
Okay.
would say in that.
Is the
sense.
park itself utilized to its, I mean, it just seems like every time I drive through,
It's sparsely attended.
maybe they, I mean, did Commissioner Murphy have any discussions? I mean, what is their revenue cost versus, to maintain it and to staff it on the days that they collect on Sundays when they have the horse shows, they have a park aide out there collecting
Well, they have
user
a
fees.
park
but
host there all the time, so.
They don't really collect the user fees. I don't think they just,
They-
So we did receive this, I mean, the county loses money on it.
That's what I'm saying. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe they don't want it. That's what
Well,
I
but,
guess what I'm,
Yeah, we
But
did
neither
have
do
a,
we.
yeah, we
Right,
did
for the
get
same
a
reason.
financial report from them
Mhm.
on the expenditure and revenues from, their rentals and the park intake on the gate fees. And then, of course, the cost to maintain that park, and as pointed out, it's in the red,
But-
pretty
pretty
deep,
significant.
significantly.
I think this is why focusing the committee, because if they're managing and it's theirs, I'm not as interested in their returns on all of that stuff. I'm more interested in their space there, and we have programming needs. How do we do that?
right. And the county has expressed willingness to work with us on exactly this topic. If we
Okay.
have ideas for how to use that space, to discuss with them.
I am interested in that.
Yeah, I think it is a matter of, similar to the making a phone call.
Well, I think it's a
Versus,
matter too of internally doing a little
to
work
meet.
and then going to have the meeting. I think at this point, there's been one meeting. I don't have all the
Right.
details, but it happened. And there's a receptiveness to the possibility. So now I think it's an internal work that the commission needs to do with staff to brainstorm what would be useful to us. And then the next step is to then meet again. That's my perspective, just from where we've been.
Right. So does anyone want to work on that?
I will work on that.
Okay.
would it be easier for you to have two commissioners?
I was just gonna say, if we both
And
do
I
it,
can co-chair, it's a lot easier, it seems, and they kind of goes hand in hand with
Exactly.
the valley-wide, so.
because the information we're talking about there is
similar.
information,
Mhm.
yeah, that's useful to the other project.
I think that's probably a, a joint effort. It's a pretty big topic.
Okay.
So we're melding those two together. Valley-wide.
I mean,
as well.
can't
I
we do
think we
that?
should keep
Can we
them
talk?
separate. They're pretty separate
Okay.
topics.
Okay.
But yeah, we can have the same commissioners on them.
Okay.
Okay. And we'll talk about which staff will be assisting you with that and setting up meetings for that.
Sounds good. OUSD partnerships, I haven't done anything.
I haven't either.
Sounds like partnerships are happening.
They're happening.
They're
Yeah.
happening.
They're happening. It's just,
They're really
How-
receptive.
how
It's
can
a
we make
different
more
new
happen?
administration,
New
and
era.
it is, and
It's wonderful.
I feel the change at the district office level, and it's pleasant, and it's nice.
It's
there's
so
a
nice.
whole, big receptivity to openness.
Okay. Naming committee. So Commissioner Murphy, again, no longer.
I thought we were in our final draft. We were just
We-
waiting.
we
for
are.
this.
It's staff's error,
and-
and
It is,
Yeah,
and
okay.
Allison did point out prior to this meeting that she wanted me to share, that by the next meeting, she should have a draft for you
Okay,
guys.
great.
I'm happy to take that
final
position.
draft for you to review.
Okay.
That we'll send, of course,
And
prior to the next commission meeting.
Commissioner Taylor interested in,
Yeah, I'll take that.
okay, sounds
Okay.
good.
and hopefully that one, once we get the draft, is on to council
Yes.
after we.
Yeah, okay. And youth committee. So I'm on here. My interest was just kind of anything we learned from while Commissioner Gilbert was here, that to make sure that kind of someone's here to hand that on to the next commissioner. And I did mention that I did have a good meeting with Allison and Maya before Maya left, and I learned a lot. So I'm ready for a new commissioner.
Is there anything we should be trying to implement without having a youth commissioner? Because there's plenty to work with there.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that if we're going to do anything, it seems like working on this workshop idea would be a good idea.
So.
And I think Allison has a very good sense of kind of all the pieces
Mm-hmm.
to that. So I can talk to her and see if we can at least
I
start
think
planning.
they worked pretty well to flesh out the bigger idea. Now it's more of a
Yeah.
execution, which comes back to staff a lot too, which I know everyone's
Right.
busy.
Trying to think of the four topical, it doesn't matter, I guess, for this meeting, but the workshops that they had seemed fantastic and wonderful. It was just
Yeah.
them to materialize.
Right, and I think we should start small, try to get one or
Yeah.
two
Right.
workshops
Yeah,
in.
I'm not
and,
saying to go
um,
back to those.
But, yeah,
Like-
but we had a lot of great ideas from that
Yeah.
set, so I can check in with Allison about
Yeah,
that.
no, that's great. Okay.
All right, we don't have a city council liaison here tonight. So future meeting dates and agenda items, I wrote down a few. We would like to change the description of the youth commissioner eligibility and terms. Any updates we have on the follow-up to the joint meeting? So we discussed a lot of follow-up, and I think there'll be some updates from that. And then an ad hoc committee to look into Proposition 68 grant writing and a naming policy review. That's what I've got.
Sounds good.
Sophocles, can I get a copy of the draft before the, well before the meeting? You could have Allison send it to
I
me.
will.
Or send me
I'll-
what she has.
Mhm. I will ask her to send it to you
Thank you.
once it's done.
Anything else for future meeting agenda items? Okay. Well, meeting adjourned.
I don't know. Do they do Saturday school for high school? Do they ever do makeup time to get back ADA?
Yes, well, they do for the elementary schools. We do it twice a year.
Yeah, I don't know. if
But I
they do
don't
it
know
for
that
high
for,
school.
I thought you meant like the Saturday work program. I smell
No,
like